the burning in your spirit, welling deep inside. You got a beast inside. I know it's hard to tame it, it's harder to explain it. Can't even get a picture, no matter how you frame it. There's so much pressure with all these external stresses, and undoubtedly try to test you. Gotta push them through the feeling, even though your mind is reeling. The power's deep inside and leads you if you were willing. Got the power. Can you feel the power? This is the hour to release your power. Got the power. Can you feel the power? This is the hour to release your power. Got the power. Can you feel the power? This is the hour to release your power. Got the power. Can you feel the power? This is the hour to release your power.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Power Shut Up podcast. You all know that we are in season 3. I am loving season 3. We have had some amazing guests. As a matter of fact, just except for one, they've all been very new guests. And I love repeats. So we're going to have some repeats from tonight. They will be back. I'm just letting them know. But I wanted to welcome everybody to another episode. We're going to have some real conversation tonight. So I'm looking forward to this. But first, before we get started, like I said, welcome back to another episode in season 3. But before we get started, I wanted to say, for those who are celebrating a birthday, happy birthday. And wait a minute, I want to do something fancy, y'all. So for everybody who has a birthday, this is what I have for you. Let me see if you can hear it. Hold on.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Y'all hear that? Happy birthday. Fancy over here, y'all. Look, I'm slow it down because I got to do all this by myself. So, but I want to say happy birthday. I also wanted to say happy anniversary to anybody who might be celebrating their anniversary. I don't miss no reasons to celebrate. It could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't care what day it is. It's a reason to celebrate. So happy anniversary. I also wanted to say congratulations to anybody who's celebrating a new job. They just bought a new house, or they just did something that they never thought they would do. Congratulations. Keep going. And last but not least is to send up prayers to anybody who may be going through something. I know it's not all, bells and whistles and flowers for everybody. There's some people who are going through some really serious things. As a matter of fact, on some level, we'll get into it tonight, we all are kind of going through some serious stuff. So prayers up to all of us. And we're going to talk about it. But I wanted to make sure that you're not forgotten, you're not alone. So now I want you to put your seatbelts on and buckle up, because this show is a little bit different. I know we have guests to come on and talk about their businesses and the things that they're doing in the community and things like that. And I absolutely love that. But I felt like it was time. So I kind of put, feelers out to a couple of friends from the past that I'm pulling into from the past that I'm going to make sure they stay in my present. But we wanted to talk about some things, but let's say hello to those who are welcoming in the chat. Hey, Marquita, thank you for coming. Business Pro, thank you so much for joining us. And Sharon said her grandson's Savvy birthday was Monday, so happy birthday to him. Tell them that we said happy birthday on the Power Shut Up. Thank you all for tuning in, and please feel free to share this out to anybody that you might think would be interested. Federal workers, people who have lost their jobs. It's going to be relatable to them. And I also wanted to let Tanya and April know to please, I think if you see at the top, you can also share it to your platforms and invite your family and friends to come on in. Like I said, I'm hoping that this turns into something more than just this one conversation. And once we get into it, I hope you'll figure out why I'm saying that. Hey, Diana, appreciate you. So let's get into it. I wanted to introduce you to two of my guests, April Washington and Tanya Graham. This is their first time on the Power Shut Up podcast, but not the first time that we have been in this type of situation where we have been sitting on a meeting. How about that? So welcome, ladies, friends, to the Power Shut Up podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa D.
I am so excited about this conversation just because it's just time for us to keep it real. And I know sometimes I get on people about saying that because I'm like, a real according to who? Okay. Because if I'm keeping it real, it's according to me. But I think we are probably in the same boat when we talk about keeping it real tonight. So, we've all worked, and I'm going to be very transparent. I want you all to jump in when we start to talk about this. But we all actually worked at the Department of Education. And you all know the state of the workforce right now. A lot of people have been furloughed recently, but before that, and I would say starting January of 2025, it has been a roller coaster of a ride. And there have been many things floating around about what's been happening, what's going on. And it's been frustrating for me, if I'm speaking personally, on listening to people talk about things and I'm knowing you were not even there. Like, you don't know what you think you know. So this was kind of like, let's open the door, let people know that, it's really been hard. But it's not something that we can't get through, because we all have, and we want to encourage others that, no, this is not the end of the road, but we absolutely understand that this is a difficult time. So we're talking about Riffed, Retired, Resigned, all of this happening at one time within federal government, all in the same few months. Like, when has that ever happened? Like, all of this is unprecedented. We have never, none of us, no matter how many years we've been in the government, we have never seen anything like this happen before. And I would venture to say that traumatized is not a strong enough word for what has happened. But I wanted to bring you all to the table and let's talk about just what the experience has been from beginning to end, and feel free to share as you want. But I chose them to come have this initial conversation because I do know that depending on your situation within the government, you're limited in what you can talk about. And to be honest with you, I am representing the retired. Tanya is representing the Rift, and April is the Resigned, because all three of us had different roles, and we were affected the same, but differently. That makes sense. And being retired, I think I was first to be like, okay, I get to run my mouth. I get to tell, but I wanted to be able to have a really productive conversation and other people who felt safe and in a position where they could really talk about what happened. So I want to start with Tanya. To be honest with you, I guess April and I are kind of sharing a space where Tanya was the supervisor. She was the director. She was, of the 300,000 that we talk about, that you hear all over the place, that was targeted. Yes, we were the targeted. We represent the targeted Black women who lost their jobs during this administration. And it has been a lot. And I want some of the stories and rumors that have been out there to kind of be dissolved of. And the only way that can happen is if we talk about it. So, Tanya, I first wanted to start with you, because being really, yes, we were all targeted, but you being kind of the leader of the team. And I'll tell you all later how she showed up in a way that I have not seen too many directors show up for their people. Okay, so they lost a good one. That's all I'm going to say. But Tanya, tell us a little bit about, we can start as early as January, how things trickled down, but what your experience has been as this kind of rolled out, and your concerns and fears. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so again, I'm Tanya Graham. And so I started at FSA in January of became a Fed January 2020, but I started in late 18 as a contractor. My previous service was like an intelligence community, so DoD intel or Homeland Security intel, all in the human capital space. So workforce planning, succession management. I came to Ed to do the same thing. And then I started to get into human capital audit. So I was like, well, audit is an audit. And I wanted to get out of the space and have a greater impact, right? And so I came to the Embuds in 23. There was an opening, and someone said, you should interview. I interviewed, and I come to the Embuds. And usually, I always come to a position, people like to tell you about the people, right? And I'm always like, I appreciate it, but I like to have my own opinion, right? Because people are people, right? Respond differently to different types of leadership. And I like to give people a chance because somebody always gave me a chance. So I come in 23, doing the Deputy Director for Quality Management, which was like this new piece in the Embuds. Not only was I new, but the people were coming back off of this detail. And there were so many emotions, and I'm walking into like almost like a burning house, right? I didn't know them because I'm just walking in like this is gonna be great. We go, hold hands in a circle and saying kumbaya. And they're like, no, not, because I don't know you. Okay. And whatever I just came from, these people forced me to go into detail we didn't want to go to. Now we're coming back to our own positions, and we're coming back to you, and we don't even know you. And so it was those type of things, right? You come in and you deal with in the office of the ombudsman, which is an office within the statute, written in statute, right? Within the Office of Federal Student Aid. But I was determined, right? The team was great. I made it a point to have one-on-ones with everyone on that team, to hear their voice. What I expect. I had not met Lisa in April, right? You two at the time were not on my team. And so then I started doing that. And then all of a sudden I became Deputy Director 2 of a dispute group. And that brought in April, who was, I call her like, she's like the silent wonder, right? I remember like interviewing her for this position. I was like, Brother Melvin said, I feel like I've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, right? And they had her at this lower level grade. And I was like, why is she not? I'm her supervisor for what? But like, so she's that. And then I get Lisa. People kept on saying Lisa, Lisa, Lisa. And one of my direct director said, well, you need to talk to Lisa. I think I want to have her on your team. She's not getting along. And I say she's not getting along, but the relationship, right? Wasn't there when the supervisor was there. And I think she's a great worker. And I think you and her would mesh well. And I would tell you, Lisa's the best team lead you can ever have. Like I went on vacation for the first time, probably since I got there, and didn't worry about anything. Lisa is an amazing person. So being able to work with these people, to be able to build a quality team, it's called quality management, right? We used to do quality reviews for what they call BPOs, business process operations, and the servicers. So the big servicers, Mohila, Nelnet, Edfin, all those folks, right? We created kind of scorecards and work with them directly one-on-one, help them clear backlog, all those things we were doing. We were a year and a half, right, in place. And then all of a sudden the new administration comes and we got this mysterious letter, and in hours, your whole system is shut down. And I'll stop there because, I'll stop there. And so April can get a chance, but it was quick. We went from, trying to, go into, getting ready, I think we're going to go into fiscal year 25, continuing to build quality, continuing to create systems and processes around compliance for the Office of the Ombuds, to hearing on the news that they got rid of the people who weren't performing.
Right.
And so it was quick, it was dirty. And as a manager, I'm like, okay, I gotta take care of me really quick. But I have people on my team that were literally like trying to retire quickly because the offerings were so bad, like no one knew what to do. And so people were taking the safest route, right? There was the DRP that no one trusted, which was folks heard about Elon Musk telling people that they can leave, and that they'll continue to pay you through the fiscal year. There was nothing on the books that we've ever seen like that. So if you had been in government, you didn't trust any of it. And so those who were eligible to retire just felt forced into retirement. And then those who were riffed had no idea what to do. It was just chaos. And so you hear things, and the first thing you kind of do is just try to help your people, right? Be able to get out the door and be able to have some type of comfort that they're leaving and that they've been respected.
Yeah, and I think when Tanya came on board, because what she's and here's the messed up thing about, and I kind of started January 25 because we had gotten through some of the kinks with you coming in brand new. There was already some history with the office. A lot of people don't even know or had never even heard of the ombudsman's office. So that's a whole nother conversation. But they really did play a major role in what happens with, higher education and student loans and things like that. I'm going to be honest with you, confession. I rarely told people that I work for the Department of Education because I knew what the conversation was going to go to when I do about my student loans. And I was like, I don't have time for this. But the work was never ending. And there was a lot of reward in it, but sometimes it was kind of, it was rewarding to self, but it went unnoticed a lot of times because people didn't even know what we did, let alone the fact that we existed. When Tanya came in, there was a huge history to the office that wasn't good energy. So she had to come into a space where we had to rebuild, not only just rebuild the office and the positions, but rebuild trust. And that's hard to do being new, and then blending that with people who are already there and knew a history that she didn't know of. And then April coming on board, she was on my favorite side of the house. It turned into my least favorite side of the house. But it was wonderful to see people that came onto the job and were just ready to work. And the reason I want to just point that out is because, part of the rhetoric or conversation was that they got rid of the bad people. But I'm here to say, and April, you can, come in right after this, but I'm just suggesting that is absolutely not true. And a lot of the work that we did, there are people probably today who are suffering because we had to resign or got riffed or retired. So they got rid of a lot of legacy people that were trying to uphold doing the right thing for our constituents and our students of all ages. And that's unfortunate, but we're going to talk about it. So, April, I wanted you to share a little bit. You came on board to a busy place that was all over the place, and you brought so much, just her energy was just wonderful, and she just kind of sponged in everything and just she stood up as this firm, I'm just here to take in everything I can and help in any way I can. And I wasn't even on April's team, but I was like, okay, that's fire right there. But April, you go ahead, because I can talk about you all day long, girl.
No, I appreciate you, Lisa. So I came to federal student aid, April of 23? Entire career spent in financial aid, working at institution, working with the state. So in our world, once you hit the federal student aid level, you've made it. That's how people feel in the higher ed world. Came on and I said, what in the world have I gotten myself into?
And Sharon, we're going to answer your question in just a minute.
Yeah, so, started receiving cases on top of cases to work on the dispute side. Like you said, a lot of people never heard of the Ombudsman Office. So they had no idea that we're the office that handles complaints from student loan borrowers, right? So did that, as Tanya mentioned earlier, worked my way up to management, supervising 4 or 5 people. Then January came. And like you said, everything just completely turned upside down. February hit, the probationary employees. We just got them on my team. They receive emails. We're blindsided as managers. No one knows what's going on.
Right.
But we still had thousands of cases that still need answers, right? That was heartbreaking. You had people, trying to get auto loans, mortgages, all kind of different cases that we had in the ombudsman office. So, you then have to regroup and say, okay, what's next? Because these cases aren't going anywhere.
Right.
And then rifts happen. And I say, okay, well, if Lisa's gone, if Tanya's gone, April's not going to be too far behind. Because you all were great, and I knew the type of work that you all did. It was important. You were great at your jobs. And so I'm like, this isn't going to work, right? Something is going to fall by the wayside with you all being ripped. So previous supervisor, who is now my current supervisor, she reached out and she said, hey, April, seems like the perfect opportunity to bring you back. And so, one of those things. The house is on fire. You have a good opportunity on this hand. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's a hard decision to make, because I also worked on cases.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're talking about, a widow who's been trying to have her student loans forgiven because she's, completed her service obligation. She's trying to get PSLF. So I'm in the middle of working, some high level cases. But I made the decision to resign, because at the end of the day, we all have to do what's best for us.
That's right.
And so here we are. I hate it to deal. Yeah, here we are. But like you said, Lisa, we're here to tell our story.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's a way to document what really happened. And I'm hoping that we can start to get into some of the weeds so people can understand that this was like turmoil every day. It was like walking into a room, and every day you never knew what was going to happen. There was no more routine. There was no more knowing what to expect. Everything was a flyby, don't know, might happen, not going to happen. And that's an awful way to work. But before we go into more of that, I wanted to, and Tanya, I'm going to pass this one to you, generally speaking, because she was kind of director over both of us at one point with the work that we did. But Sharon was asking what type of student services did we all provide, which is a gamut of things. But Tanya, just if you wanted to tackle that.
Yeah, so we were within Department of Education. We were with the Office of Federal Student Aid, so on the higher education side. And so we worked within the Office of the Ombudsman, which is what we call the compliance arm, when it comes to student loans. And so you come to the Ombudsman if you went to your servicer and to work out loans and you have not been provided a sufficient resolution. And so April was the supervisor on the dispute resolution side. And so you can go on studentaid.gov and you can file a dispute, and it would pop up, and someone on April's team could take that case, right? And the ombuds had the final say so. On my side, on the quality side, we would say, okay, students would complain, or we would look over actually the complaints that came into the servicers, like Mohila, Nelnet, and we would see if they were answered with a certain level of quality and satisfaction. And if they weren't, we would send them back, and we would tell them how they need to fix them in the future, but also meeting with our internal, we call servicer liaisons, to help with backlog. So if we saw cases were sitting in longer than 60 days, right? Every week, Lisa was sending reports saying, hey, these are all your cases that are over 60 days old. We need a plan every week, every Friday, how you're going to clear backlog. So those are the type of things that we did within the Office of the Ombudsman.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, and to add to that, remember, while we're doing the regular everyday things that we do, there was a new project program, something being introduced, I swear, at least every other day. So between PSLF or IDR, or there was just a ton of things that were being introduced. And just to put things in perspective, while all of those, because I'm sure you all were watching the news where there was something new going on every day, we were trying to keep up with the new programs because, when I'm thinking about it now, as we're talking about it, we never had the information. And I want people to understand this. It was very rare that we had information regarding these programs ahead of time. So a lot of this was happening simultaneously, which makes it very difficult to help when we're learning what the program is about and what's being asked and what the requirements are. At the same time, you know, a student is coming in, or somebody's coming in and saying, hey, you know, my stuff is due. Like, what am I supposed to do? Or how do I do this? How do I do that? And we're learning while we're trying to tell them what to do. And what happened that wasn't usual as well is that we went through a reassignment while we were going through a new administration, which rarely happens. Now, I don't know if at other agencies it happens, but it rarely happens at Department of Education, because it really kind of doesn't make sense to assign offices and people when you have a whole new administration that's coming in and you haven't even seen them yet. So these are all things that are happening while you have these workers who are trying to keep customers happy with either resolving their student loans or getting onto the correct payment plan so they can continue their student loans, keeping the services on track, because you know what Tanya was mentioning on the compliance side was we were also responsible for making sure that they were complying with what, you know, Department of Education said was supposed to be done. The Ombudsman's office was clearly about making sure that everybody's following what they're supposed to be doing by the law. So, and then we could talk about how even though the Ombudsman's office was created by Congress, when it came time to Riffed folks, a lot of things were kind of happening that actually should not have been happening. And we can say that as of today. So it's kind of hard to talk about what should happen when clearly what should happen, the opposite is happening. And you got to make sense of that to people who are saying, why are you doing this? This is not supposed to happen. This is not supposed to happen. And yet we're in the midst of it happening. And we're trying to get the work done. And I think it was 4 servicers at the time. I'm not even sure what things have changed since then, but you're trying to manage the servicers, make sure that they're following the regulations. And then you're trying to handle on April's side. I don't even remember the number of cases, but there had already been a backlog, you know? So
April said, I remember. I'm just joking.
Like we couldn't even keep up. And then they're changing the systems and they're changing the people that you're working with and they're moving people. So there's all these moving parts. I just can't even trying to picture what would describe what was happening. Everything was moving at one time. And you trying to help somebody to resolve a student loan issue so they could just move on and close on their homes or, you know, get their kids through school or even just fill out the FAFSA application. It's very frustrating. And it had become a place, to be honest with you, where I felt, and you all can speak to this, where I just thought mentally it was very toxic. And literally you had to brace yourself every day to turn on that computer. So where someone would think working at home, okay, what's the big deal? But imagine to be stressed to even just log on. When you think I'm home, this should be okay. I'm relaxed. I'm in my own comfortable space. But even at home, we weren't comfortable because it did feel like an attack every day with our jobs, where we were safe. I wanted to go to what Sharon said. I think I see what's happening to our government agency. They are getting rid of quality control to force accountability to the public. Tanya, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the case because the accountability pieces were stripped. So it really is a lot of rationale, right, to how the rifts occurred, right, across ed, honestly. From a human capital standpoint, you usually do a manpower study. And a manpower study allows you to see, within the organization and within required functions, are the duplication, is there overlap? Are people graded too high? People mismatched or so there was no manpower study done, right? There was a quick and dirty reorg done, but there was really no manpower study done. And so I'm not sure if there's, if anything, I'm not really sure if there was any type of way to explain if what they did was actually around trying to force some type of accountability. Because if that was the case, you would not see what you see on the news right now when it comes to Title IV and also when it comes to student loans, right? You got a 1.6 trillion plus short portfolio. You got 43.
Also to get rid of accountability.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you got 43, million borrowers. You have borrowers who are online on hold for hours on hours on hours just to try to get basic answers. They can't get their applications through. But I know, as April and both Lisa alluded to, like we left a burning building, right? All of a sudden you're in a house that catches on fire and you're like, it's a little fire, right? It's little stuff. And you think, oh, this fire it's gonna go out, right? Somebody go ahead and get the little extinguisher over here and blow it out. And then you're like, I guess they're gonna let that, okay. But if you've been in large buildings, right? If the fire is on the second floor and you're on the 8th, they tell you to stay put, right? Because they could contain it.
Right.
On the second floor. You don't have to go anywhere. And so, but all of a sudden, like April mentioned, like I go into a meeting because we're trying to manage folks who are in what they call borrow defense. These people we're trying to get them payback for money that they were owed for going to these defunct colleges that are out here, right? And all of a sudden get a message saying that half the team who were probationary have been fired, not ripped. These folks were fired for quote unquote poor performance and they haven't even been on appraisals. And so you got to get a team, you got to get a team ready to literally, to go meet with attorneys, and they just lost half of their teammates. And every day it was something new, like psychologically, I got to get ready to get a team ready who thinks that I know stuff that I don't even know, that I don't even know, right? Because they're looking at me sideways like, you didn't know? That all these people were going to get ripped. I mean, not ripped, sorry, probationary periods. Like, you didn't know that these people are going to get fired? And I was like, no. Because I would have tried to put something in place, right? Because we got hundreds of cases and we have to meet with lawyers from the private sector and give them answers. We have no one to review cases. So, yeah.
I wanted to welcome in the Coco Rose Show. Thank you so much for tuning in, Coco. And Sharon said, just keeping it real, the pool, underserved and disabled are under attack. Absolutely. And Jermaine said, does anyone know what is happening now and or who can contact now if you need help with your student loan solution? That is an excellent question, Jermaine. Let's see. No, so here's the thing. Because I do hope that this is the beginning of many conversations to help people like Jermaine that are stuck, because the unfortunate part of what happened, at least with the Department of Education and how they did things, was they really did remove a lot of legacy people that kind of know how things work, how they flow, even business level on how to get into the system so that you can get a case created, so that you can get to a caseworker so that they can start to reach out to the servicers. But imagine all of that is shut down. And even the servicers were unaware that we were riffed, we had been retired, or we were resigning. No communication was happening within the building, within the offices. Nobody knew what anybody was doing, where they had gone for months, I believe, Tanya, after we were gone, if I'm not mistaken. Jermaine, we're going to try to get you, I think April may be able to help, because part of this conversation too is to lean into what next, because people don't understand that when this was happening, Sharon said, poor typing too fast. No, we got you, Sharon. We got you. But that while this was happening in the middle of, let's try to put things in perspective. I'm retiring, which is different from Rift, correct? Tanya's being Rift. April's still at the time, still working, but we all work together. So we're still trying to keep tabs on what's going on and how to keep business flowing. But you come in one day, and actually it was one evening, and I'm just being really transparent because I really do want some of this to come out, because I think people didn't realize what was happening. You sign on the next morning. I happened to have signed in that evening and gave, Tanya a call and said, hey, My Teams is blacked out. There's nothing there. And we're like, oh, I'm in the middle of retiring, so I'm trying to get paperwork together. And I'm like, well, let me just send the information to my personal email so that I can continue my process of retiring. I'm just retiring. People do it all the time. No biggie, right? Everything's blocked. You can't send emails out. You can't receive any emails. And the next day, they informed us that not only what I think Tanya got the notice over email, and after that, you were locked out, and they told us immediately to turn in our badges because they would no longer be working. So it literally was within hours of you get off work at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and hours later, everything had been shut down and your badge would no longer work to get into the building. And we all in different positions. Tanya's been told she's riffed. What does that mean? What happens? We can't get into a Teams meeting to even get direction on what's next. And I think people didn't quite understand, well, y'all weren't doing any work. It wasn't that we were choosing, we couldn't. So in a lot of those instances, it wasn't even possible. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tanya, when that happened with the RIF, it wasn't just ombudsman people. It was people from all over, including the IT people. So even if you went in to say, hey, I can't get into my system, can you help me? You know, y'all know that help desk. Okay, but those people were RIFed as well. So the people that could have gotten you in were no longer working, but you had no way to contact them to find out. I literally called help desk and the guy told me, hey, I'm just taking calls, but they're no longer here. So he didn't even have the capability to get me back in. But people just didn't know that that's what we're working with. And so the narrative works when you say nobody's doing any work. Well, that could be true because we can't. I'm just saying. But Sharon said they have done this in all the agencies. Most of the subject matter experts are gone. I have been at HUD for 39 years, and I know several employees retired, were let go, DPR 1 and 2, and now Rift. Absolutely. I mean, it's a nightmare because how do you the overlay of those just has never, like, it just doesn't make sense. And it's very frustrating when you're trying to, okay, I'm trying to find a way out the door and you keep moving the door. So I've said I'm leaving. I'm retiring. I still can't find the door out. You know what I'm saying? I can't find the door out. Tanya was having some technical difficulties. She'll be back. In April, you know, I wanted to tap into you because you're watching all of this happening and you're watching people fall off. And you're listening to the news. I had got calls from my mom that was saying, hey, I hear they're offering you some kind of severance pay. No, that's not a severance pay they're offering. They're asking you to leave. There's no severance involved. Like it was amazing the words that people were using, but the news was even saying that. And I'm telling my mother, no, I haven't been offered a severance pay. I've been told through an email that I can either stay or do what I'm told, so to speak, or I can leave and, you know, more power to you. Okay. So, you know, in April, I don't know what your feeling was watching people just kind of fall off. And, you know, it has to weigh on your psyche on some level because, you know, and I say this jokingly, y'all, but I was like, oh yeah, I would have been gone anyway, because first of all, we're trying to uphold what's supposed to be done. When you start to challenge that, for me, that's a hard decision. And a lot of people had to walk away. So how was that for you, April? Because you had to walk away. And I'm telling you, it was rare that someone walks away from a federal government job.
Exactly. A remote job at that. You know, but you're right. It was hard. You know, in my little virtual going away, you know, event, I made it clear that it was the hardest professional decision I've ever had to make. You enjoy the work. You have a team of dedicated workers, hard workers. and you're constantly every day trying to show up for them because they need some type of steady head throughout all the chaos. So, I'm dealing with the whole, okay, April, should you stay? Should you go? Like you said, when they offered the buyout, you're trying to weigh, okay, April, you're going to have a job when, you log on tomorrow, you see what's happening to everyone else. But then you're trying to maintain your cool for your team. You're having to talk to people who are crying because they're afraid, single moms, people who may be having health issues. So all of it, like you said, it's emotionally and mentally draining. You're already trying to show up every day, do the work. When you all left, that work had to go somewhere. A lot of that work shifted to me. And so, like I said, you're trying to be all these different things to different departments. And like you mentioned, like you don't know who's been riffed. It's not like they gave, a new org chart. So you don't know, okay, am I reaching out to this person? Am I reaching out to somebody else? Because like you said, we simply did not know who was left. And a lot of the people that we needed to work with, like I said, you all were gone. So we talked about it earlier. PTSD, I think, is a good way to describe it.
We should all get a check. I'm just saying. And I will to you, April, with your team, and Tanya, I wanted you to talk about it because I want to lead us into, before we close out and then hopefully continue this conversation, is preparing, those coworkers and the people that you've been working around for years for what's next, knowing that we have no idea. We don't even know what's happening next tomorrow, let alone what this looks like when you're asking people to have to now not work remote. I'm hired remote, which means I don't have a location. My home is my location. And now I have to make a decision whether I need to move to a whole nother state in one direction or another just so I can keep my job, which might not be guaranteed because tomorrow the whole department may shut down. That is like something that has been unheard of, but you all maintained your team in a way that I just think should never go unnoticed. And I applaud you all because there are people that are managers of teams right now that don't dedicate themselves the way you all did with a riff notice and preparing to resign. And I will never let that sleep, because most managers don't operate that way, but you all, and I'm going to give it to you, Tanya. I'm going to give you your flowers while you're here, that even being riffed, not having access to computers, not knowing what direction, being in a position where as the director, you don't even know what to tell us what to do. And you're feeling some kind of way, but you set up Zoom calls on your personal accounts to bring everybody together. Any questions you may have, the tears flowed, the transparency of I might lose my house, all of those conversations. And we collectively continued even to today with a chat that still remains live, okay, that we use to pour into each other and answer the conversations and help one another along the way. And I just say kudos is not enough, but I'm just saying I've never experienced that from a manager or a director or a supervisor. And that's just to go to show the people that they let go. That's what you let go. That was the mistake. But Tanya, I wanted you to speak to that because that's you stepping up on a whole other level.
Mm-hmm. So I think, I come into these positions where you get the kids who are on the Isle of Misfit Toys, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you guys remember the over. I'm a little old. I'm 44.
Oh, so look, Gloria said yes. That's my daughter. So proud of her. Yes.
So that's my mom, y'all. Gloria is my mother.
She is amazing. Thank you, Gloria, Miss Gloria.
So yeah, it was. But I told someone one day, like, these are all God's children, right? And I have a responsibility of how I treat people, right? Because I know how I've been treated and what I needed. And so you just kind of take a step back, and you gotta get people out, right? So on the team, we had people who were retiring. We had people who haven't even made tenure in government yet, right? We have people who who have been in government, right? 25 years, 20 years, 15 years, but also retired Marine Corps, retired Army, retired Navy. And you would think, right, with that much government service, you'd be celebrating them off, right? They would be able to plan their own exit, right? And they never were able to plan their exit. And so I have that, and I have a young lady who had just came off maternity leave, who had no leave, right? Because she's new to federal service, newer, maybe a year and a half. Another young lady, the same young lady who's been in government 20 years and in the Marine Corps, her mother had passed 2 weeks, maybe 2 months previous to this. Person had just put their son in college, and so no one was expecting any of this. And so when we got into the Zoom chats, that's the only thing I could do, right? The only way I could communicate was, we always had a roster, right? A recall roster. And my only way I could communicate was send a Zoom link. And because I stood in people in human capital every day, like, first of all, whatever you got to say, go ahead and say it, right? That's when it came out. How am I going to pay my mortgage? What am I going to do with this? And people were crying. And, retirees are like, I gave all of this and I get nothing for it. And so, you make this time and you just make it happen. And I just think it's what we're supposed to do, right? Because when we serve honorably together, that's just what we're supposed to do. Honestly, you're tired in your body. You don't realize it until everything kind of like dies down, because you are on such an adrenaline high. So, what you mentioned, Lisa, about we had internet access, but we only had internet access internal to FSA. And so we were on, we immediately were taking, we got a RIF notice on a Tuesday night, I think.
It was a Tuesday
night. Mm-hmm. By that Wednesday morning, if you shut your computer down, you were done. I always keep my computer up so I could still see stuff, but it did a reboot and that was it, right? And so I'm getting emails I can't get any email from the outside, but other teams who weren't Riffed didn't know we were Riffed.
Right.
So they're messaging me saying, where is this? Where is that? I don't have this person anymore. Are you guys doing this? And I got to tell them, I can't help you. I can't get you access to anything. And then it was kind of the hard pieces of, well, I call it like the Jedi mind trick, which is just manipulation of managers coming to me, and saying, your team is leaving. It's a huge gap. I need you guys to put a spreadsheet of everything that you've done so we can keep the work going. And I told him, you can't expect me to do that for people, right? You can't expect me to ask people who can't access their retirement paperwork.
Right.
Okay, they have no access to their leave and earning statements. They have no idea what to do to actually stop to give you this. I got to get these people out the door. I will do it. So and if no one knows this, I did it. I typed up a long message, and I said, Lisa, give me the side eye, because Lisa said, you better not do anything. But I wrote some things up and I sent it over, because I never wanted you all to have to, that was like audacity, right? They say audacity is on sale. That is audacity. I got to get these people out the door. We have, the retirement messages. People couldn't even get on retirement calls because you couldn't get access to the retirement. You couldn't get to the retirement paperwork because it was on Teams. And so I'm trying, I got to get with someone to get you all retirement stuff. And so even after, we thought we were Riffed, the court said not so. So we were back on the roller coaster until August 1st. But in between that time, right, I felt personally, it's hard to just turn off being the manager of these people, because we still are in this together until August 1st, right? And so I would still get questions like, I haven't received a paycheck yet. Like, people were not, March 1st, if you did the first round of retirements, so much backlog, people weren't getting paid anymore, The answer for paperwork. And so these are like, and I'm still trying to answer questions and it's in the middle of summer. And so we did get together. I was able to get the team together. We did our last Zoom together. And then those who were local in the DMV, we met up at Pallet 22 and just celebrated those who were
Recognize us for all of our hard work.
yeah, and those who were, did all the hard work. And I never want anything for them because I feel like you guys, you have weathered like an amazing storm. Like to have people still, if I know for a fact, if the Rift came through and we still had access to everything, and we were told that, hey, we need you all to work, those folks would have worked until the very last day if they had access to everything. They would have worked,
Absolutely.
To the Aprils who were still there, to April, it was when she said she got dumped everything, like April. April was the person who was getting a lot of, because April was the knowledge, right? April was honestly the knowledge at that level left on case management, right? What was happening in the world of cases, and then also what was happening in the world of quality, and being on the calls with us, whether it came from congressionals, right, control mail or anything like that, right? She was the one of out of everyone on the dispute side that was in all those calls and in all those conversations who could kind of pick it up. But you're talking about picking up. I mean, we had queues that we had teams shuffle through at least 500 cases a week.
It was
It
was so much going on. I want to catch these questions before we close out. The Business Pro said one of the biggest concerns he sees right now in the long-term impact these shutdowns, furloughs, and rifts threats are having on talent and resources. Because a lot of what happened, I mean, they really did. When I say legacy, they let go of all of the real resource and knowledge there to even ask the simple questions. So when we talk about being in the dark about things, and I'm speaking of, probably maybe even currently as we speak, when Tanya, you mentioned something about the queues and the cases that are sitting in the queues, there are a lot of people out there that are waiting on answers to concerns with their student loans, and they have been sitting there. Unfortunately, I'm going to venture to say over a year, because we have gone through another administration without, people who did not know that they were there, what to do with them, because you just dropped everybody. So even the people that you could have reached out to and say, hey, what am I supposed to do with this now that you're gone? There was no kind of time for transition. So there wasn't transition time. There wasn't pass off time. There wasn't, let me prepare you, so that it was none of that. And I know real quick, Sharon had said something about, did we think that this was part of the Project 25? Now, I don't know specifically about whether this was part of the plan, but I will say that I would not lean against that there was some kind of method to the madness that we were unaware of. But I do think that it was strategic in what was happening to us. I just don't think, I know on my level that I was privy to what that was. I just know what I saw, which was a lot of legacy people that had a lot of knowledge that were told, you gotta go. And it's unfortunate because I think that's where they lose out. Sharon said that she applauded each one of you for staying strong and to help each other. Tanya and April, look, I'm trying to tell you, and what I'll say to that is, Sharon said, how do you destroy something? You destroy it inside out. Yeah, and what I'll say to that is, what Tanya did, which I think helped us to transition into something else, was that she crossed bridges long before this happened, so that we could work with one another to at least cover each other. And I thank you for that, because April and I weren't necessarily connected, even though we were both working with her. But Tanya bridged that gap. So, it was the real straightforward conversation. Hey, Lisa, I need you to talk to April. April, I need you to talk to Lisa. We have conversations. We talk so that we're not foreign to each other, and everybody's not working in these silos. And I will say, I'm gonna throw this out there real quick, that one of the things that I saw working against us, and like I said, I want us to have more conversation with this, is that they push silos. And I think the silos were pushed for a reason. Because when you got somebody working over here on a project and nobody else is over there and don't know what they're doing, then it's easier to manipulate and regulate what they're doing, and nobody can check them and nobody knows what this person is doing or whatever. And Tanya, I applaud you, because even though that was happening, you still bridged some gaps that needed to be bridged to keep the flow, and kind of remove those silos, because they hurt us. And you listen to your people. When we said, hey, this is not working, or hey, I need to talk to such and such. Okay, let's make it happen. And I appreciate you for that. Business Pro said we're losing experienced, skilled professionals, not just because of an immediate layoff, but because people are frustrated, burnt out, and disillusioned. You're absolutely correct. And I think April kind of speaks to one of those people. She just really, it got to a place where you have your best people and then you throw everything at them. So the whole kitchen sink and everything. So she's only one person. She can't do everything. And then it is burnout. And I think individually we were all dealing with that every day, because you got rid of the probationary people. Now the work has to go somewhere else. You burn out the legacy people and they're like, I can't do no more. I don't know what else to do. I can't be in 50 places at one time. And it literally was a put out the fire every day kind of situation. Miss Gloria said, I totally agree. They had to be mentally and emotionally strong, not only for each other, but they had to maintain this mentality in their homes. That's a whole, to be wives and mothers, that's a whole nother conversation, because you're absolutely right. How do you take all of that and then try not to take it home? Because we working from home and now we don't even have access to the computer. So we got to be on all kinds of stuff. It's like using your personal computer to handle work business. Like, no, like, you don't give me access to the phone, but you want me to make a phone call? Like, it's crazy. Sharon said, I'm going to call you on you all synergy girls. Lisa knows what I mean. Absolutely. This is just kind of the beginning. We haven't even, dipped a third into some of the real specific things that were happening. But I do want to lead into and I'm going to ask, April and Tanya, if y'all will come back and we can continue on what next, because we both have moved through that. Now, I'm going to be transparent with where I am, and then I'm going to pass it over to Tanya and April before we say, I'm going to give you all a few announcements and we're going to say goodnight. But I will say I was representing the retired. I retired March 31st of this year. I was one of those that Tanya mentioned that missed probably a month or two of no pay, zero. And I will also say that even today, we are in October on the 16th, my retirement case has still not been closed, and I am still not receiving my full retirement. Just to give you all an idea that we went through that and we are still in it. But we're going to be all right. And we're going to work with as you can see, we coming together because we're going to work through this. But we okay. On the other side of this, some wonderful things have happened. So I want us to come back together and talk about what we're doing now, and assuring people that I know this is difficult, but we'll get through it. But Tanya, let us know how you showing up right now. Because look, Tanya, she busy, okay? So she ain't skipping. I'm just saying.
So funny. You know what? It was so hard, but I was showing up for me first, right? That was one of the hardest transitions, was to breathe and to learn how to rest and show up for me first. And so one of the biggest things, you on a plane, they say, you got to put the mask on you first. I'm showing up for me. And it took me a while to be a little, okay, right? With I thought I was going to go possibly into SCS, go into senior executive service. And then, God said, not so, right? And so, and I'm not saying that God, causes a rift, but I'm saying that things happen in life, and God gives us options, right, through the Holy Spirit, and to listen and to do what's next. And I decided to go ahead and pivot, right, and to do what I'm doing right now, doing what's next, and feeling good about it, and feeling confident, and taking what I know, and being okay with saying out loud who I am, right? Because as a manager, sometimes, even as a manager, I have personally some aspects of imposter syndrome, right? Where you show up for everyone else, and sometimes you hide yourself so that everybody else can be okay. But in this environment, that doesn't work well after a while. And so, being okay with who you are, being okay with who I am, rather. And honestly, the biggest thing is showing up for me so I can be better for everyone else on this call and anybody that I'm interacting with.
Absolutely. And I love you for all of that. And she can't go nowhere, so she will be back because they stuck for life.
And
April.
I do want to say, I just want to say, Lisa and April, like, I do want to say before we leave that it was the skill, when she says legacy and skill set, you got Lisa D, who was in, congressional affairs, legislative affairs for several years, going state to state, doing presentations for states when it came to education for years. You got, and then, managing FAFSA before it was working on the FAFSA side, way before it was a big thing. And then coming into the Buzz and doing dispute resolution and training teams there. And then you have April, 27 years in higher education, financial aid, right, side, right, in the schools, now in the state of Mississippi, on the ground, helping borrowers out day in and day out. And so these are not women, or not Black women that don't have a skill set, who weren't contributors, right? And so I just want people to know that, like, these are women who spent years and years in federal service giving, and playing major roles.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Tanya. And April, let us know how you showing up, because you still making things happen. Tell us.
Yeah, so I didn't go too far. Back with the state of Mississippi State Financial Aid Office, where we're trying to help student loan borrowers on our end. All right, so the show doesn't stop. But I do want to say, I appreciate the kudos that you all, that both of you all have given me. But honestly, when people see me, they see Lisa and Tanya, because you all were intentional about, training me, pouring knowledge into me. So a lot of the work that I was doing, it was because of both of you. And so when people talk about the legacy knowledge, that has left, you two, definitely, your presence is missed. It continues to be missed. I know, because people from Ed still reach out. So I just wanted to take some time to tell both of y'all thank you for not just simply what you did for everyone in the ombudsman office, but definitely what you all did for me. So I'll always appreciate both of you.
Oh, I miss both of you all. So yeah, y'all know. Well, Tanya, I've been driving her crazy even since, so she can't get ready. April, now that we done locked in, because I know we all had a moment where we had to give ourselves some space to do whatever we were doing. But this to me also is an example of just 3 out of that big number of 300,000 women who, yes, lost their jobs or had to transition, maybe not voluntarily necessarily, but that still got up and kept going, are still giving, are still doing. And I appreciate you all for continuing the fight. So it might look different, but I ain't got nothing. There's nothing that's going to stop me from continuing to get up and do something to make a difference in this world. And I also want to thank those who are still there in the fight. We're all in this together. So no matter if you're still at work, Business Bro said individuals were accustomed to a culture of trust. However, it was abruptly terminated at a moment's notice. Absolutely. And we got to fight through that, Business Pro, because I think that's what makes it hard and makes it difficult as we move on, because there was a certain kind of trust, especially with the federal government. And I'm doing this and wanted to do this and continue it because I don't think that government will be the same. I think we met a new year where things will never go back to where they were. So now we have to figure out how we pivot going forward and still show up and do what needs to be done. So all I'm going to say is y'all keep your eyes and ears open, because I am sure that you will hear some amazing things that these ladies are continuing to do that's going to make a difference in the generations to come, whether it's in financial aid, post education, whatever it is. They're still working at it. You can clearly see, and I'm gonna bring them back here to keep updating you all. And I want to ask people, if you all are in a position and you feel free to have some conversations about how do we get through this, how do we maneuver through. I don't want to get anybody in any trouble. I'm retired, so I don't care. But I'm just saying, if you want to come, this is a platform for that, because we do want to start to help people to know that this is not the end. And I know that some people were just totally destroyed and it has uprooted their lives. I am part of that, even though I was pretty much ready to retire, not quite that way. But I will share that I am and I think I've given a few details on it, but I am transitioning into a space. For you all that don't know, I received my honorary doctorate last year. And now that I'm retired, I get to transition and do something different. So I am going to be launching, and I'm working on some things with that, but I'm launching, it's called Launchpad Coaching and Consulting. So I want you all to stay tuned, because that's something I'm working on, but it has to do with what I've been doing behind the scenes the whole time with podcasting and writing and publishing and interviewing. And I want to help people who are interested in doing those kind of things to get back to the basics, because sometimes I think we watch other people and we say, hey, I can do that. And we just jump out there and we kind of miss some things. So I want to take us back to basics and prepare you all for what you need to do so that you can step into that podcast and show up for your, being your best self or whatever it is you want to do. And I'm also going to be continuing my publishing company, but I did have a mishap, and this shows you about resilience and how we bounce back. I got some news that all of my domains, had malware on them. And before I could just lose it all, like, okay, I'm retiring, this is a whole mess with my career, and now this, I'm happy and thankful that I have people around me who truly love me and said, okay, we gave you about a minute, now let's go back in, we're going to figure it out. And I actually am relaunching. I have had the last book under Touch by Dove Publishing, which was Our Scars Matter, that was just released in August. Congratulations to those ladies. That is actually the last book under Touch by Dove Publishing, but I will be starting off with I'm working on a new collaboration and some more books, but it will be under Soul and Story Publishing. So I want you all to stay tuned, because more to come there. So we got some things going on. And I also wanted to remind you all, first of all, thank you. Thank you for continuing to support the platform. We look forward to seeing you next week, where we are going to be meeting with someone who is a 2-time survivor of breast cancer. She has an amazing story. She actually is a friend of mine that went to Spelman. And when I tell you, these Black women are showing up, okay, y'all stop sleeping on them. So we can get knocked down sometimes, but we know how to get back up and keep going. So we're going to continue that. And I also have the last week of October, we're taking it globally, and I have a returning visitor. She's in the education world over in India. So I'm planning for an interview so that we can get together. We're going to talk about education internationally, globally. I might, y'all might see April and Tanya back in the mix, because we're going to keep these conversations going. But I wanted to tell you all that maybe you all know, but some of you might not, that I was also part of I've had some wonderful opportunities from the things that I've done over the years with the magazines and things like that. So I was in a movie called Old School Rollers. And if you all want to check it out, and I'm sharing this because y'all know that I love skating. Me and my husband still skate every Sunday. And if you go in the middle, you can see there's Lisa, because I don't dress like that most of the time. But I was cute that day. It was for film. You on the movie, you can't look like I do every day. But if you go to Amazon Prime, you can go check it out, rent it, and see it. It's a wonderful family movie. I'm not on roller skates, but I'm hosting. I got a microphone in my hand, y'all. So I'm doing what I do. But check that out. And I also wanted to leave you all with a couple of things before we say goodbye. Tomorrow, I wanted you all to know, because you know I do kind of highlights of awareness days, and you all know that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I think, what is it? It's October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's also National Bullying Prevention Month, and it's also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I wanted you to be aware of those, but also that tomorrow, if you didn't know, mark this on your calendar. October 17th is Pay Back a Friend Day. So if you owe somebody some money, there's a day for that. Y'all need to get them back their money. I'm just saying. October 22nd is Smart is Cool Day. I love that one. And actually today is World Allergy Awareness Day. I wanted to share that because I just want to let y'all know these allergies are kicking my behind. Okay. So today is the way to be away. Just work with us, because I got a headache that you wouldn't believe. But I wanted to thank you all again for tuning in and leave you with the Lord will fight for you and you shall hold your peace. That's from the New King James Version. And please remember, for those government workers, that you can go out there and Google in your local area to find restaurants, hotels, attractions for deals and offers for federal government. That people are really looking out for the federal government employees. They always have, but I know specifically this time around because we used to get paid, and I knew there might be something going on with that. So please go Google and find those places that will look out for you. I think TGI Fridays is on that list for specific people. But check it out. Do not sleep on that. Don't let your pride get in the way. Go out there and get what's for you. And I do have this quote from Ernest Hemingway that says, always do sober what you said you do drunk. That will teach you to keep your mouth shut. I thought that was wonderful. So with that being said, Gloria, Jermaine, maybe April, she had a question about student loans. Jermaine, if you want to inbox your information, April might be happy to help you because she's still on the ground doing some work. So we want to make sure you get the help you need. See, because we ain't gonna let nobody slip through the cracks.
No.
Thank you so much for tuning in, Coco and Marquita, Business Pro, Diane, Sharon. We really do appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you next week. I hope I didn't miss anybody. And until then, please behave yourselves, at least as much as possible. I'm just saying. And thank you again, Tanya and April, for joining me. Y'all stay right there. Don't go nowhere. But we're going to shut down, and we will see you next Thursday. Hold tight, ladies.
Yeah.